Dr. Zakaria, if you introduce yourself to people as Zach, that's an invitation for them to call you that. Sometimes, I introduce myself, my name's Abdulladif. I used to think that people couldn't pronounce my name. I used to go by Abdi for quite a long time. People can call me Abdulladif at the end of the day. It's not the hardest thing in the world.
One of the patients, it was like Maghrib, it was close to Maghrib, and I was about to bring my fast. I got my dates and water, and I'm walking towards like multi-faith room, and then my bleep went off. So I went straight to the ward, and this was like 2 minutes before Maghrib. I ended up breaking my fast like 30-40 minutes later, because obviously that patient's very unwell. I was the only one there, then I had to get help. Sometimes it's out of your hands.
The different ways you can have an impact on the community, right? We all understand that smoking is haram, right? The reality is that a lot of Muslims, they still do smoke. An individual who's able to tackle these kind of things, he's able to have a massive impact. People can live longer.
There's lots of things that go into people. People might think it's normal. Patients are quite a bit older, in their 70s, 80s. How many cigarettes you smoke and for how long? And they'll tell you I've smoked 20 a day for 50 years.
Yeah.
So, and I fear that's what, vaping is moving towards.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the StriveMed podcast, hosted by myself, Dr. Inam.
Dr. Zach.
And today, alhamdulillah, we have a very special episode for you. Nice guest with us today, Abdul Latif. Just before we get into that, quick shout out to our sponsors, Healthy Nikah, the matchmaking service for Muslim healthcare professionals or anyone who wants to marry a healthcare professional. Alhamdulillah, they've been having tremendous success. And I think it's very important you have a platform like this to find your spouse who's like-minded, who understands the difficulties that you're going through in your career, which can be very challenging at times, and also a similar wavelength with regards to your education level, your professionalism, etc. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Abdul Latif, also known as on social media as the Flying Physiologist.
That's right, yeah.
Over the last year, he's done quite a lot on social media with regards to educating people, particularly about his role, making a difference to the community as well as a respiratory physiologist. I think one of the things which really inspired us about your content, first and foremost, is our ethos, which we try to promote in StriveMed regularly, which is that wherever you're placed in society, whatever skills you've been given, try your very best to make a difference in that, right? So obviously we've talked a lot about how doctors can do that, but the reality is that goes into each and every single different profession there is within the healthcare sphere, outside the healthcare sphere as well.
Yeah.
So whether it's to do with someone who has a restaurant, try to do that with excellence, try to do that with, try to leave the legacy in the best possible way that you can. I think there's an interesting story which happened recently, and it just shows the importance of acknowledging everyone's role in the healthcare industry. And there was a brother who was delivering a khutbah, right? This was in the hospitals, right? And so obviously the Friday congregational prayers, they give the khutbah, and then he was trying to make it relevant towards those in the room. So he made it a lot about medicine, a lot about the life of doctors, etc. And then after the khutbah was finished, someone just pulled him up and said that, bro, in the room there's a lot of different healthcare professionals as well. It's not just medics. And it's fun if you actually think about it. There's so many different professions out there, all combining to reach the same goal.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes people just think, it's just doctors and nurses, but, there's a lot of us out there. Of course, alhamdulillah, I'm a physiologist. There's paramedics, there's, radiographers, there's physiotherapists, many different jobs out there. And like you said, we're all trying to aim for the same goal, which is, further patient care.
Even non-clinical ones as well.
Yeah, non-clinical ones as well.
Receptionists,
admin,
ward clerks,
definitely as well. Work with amazing admin people.
Canteen staff.
Yeah,
they're extremely important.
Housekeeping staff as well. I work with some housekeeping staff, and they're amazing. Yeah. They're always so helpful, always so friendly. Even though they're not, clinical, they're very, very important in furthering patient care.
That's generally a mindset as well. Generally in Islam, it's important to not neglect anyone's role in the entire setup of something. So
100%,
even in any institution, right? Even if you consider the masjid, there's going to be different people doing different roles, and it's absolutely essential. Like the speaker who's delivering the role, he's delivering the lecture. You have someone who's preparing the mics. You have someone in the back who's cleaning. You have
Of course.
all of these things are very, very, and to be honest, every action can have a mighty scale on, mighty weighting on your scale in Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's not necessarily about the one who's leading from the front, but reality is that it's a sincerity in the action,
100%,
and it's a combined project as well. Something we came across recently is that everyone has different skills, right? So not everyone is made to do one particular thing, and the benefit of that is that human beings, they complete each other in order to achieve success.
100%.
So inshallah, we're really excited to get into your job, what exactly it does.
Of course.
Just have a few rapid fire questions just to get you warmed up, inshallah.
Of course. Let's go.
Yeah, so the first question we have, and this is just also for an opportunity as an icebreaker, but also for our audience to get to know you.
Of course.
What is your favorite Somali food?
Favorite Somali food? Yeah, Somali food, 100% goated. I think it has to be some nice berries and hanid. That's like lamb shank, lamb shoulder.
Yeah.
Amazing food. There's a restaurant called Sabib as well. I think it's in Acton.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, so good.
What
about you guys? Have you had much Somali food?
Yeah, rice and hanid, definitely. Yeah, I go to it a lot. Al-Kaf, shout out to Al-Kaf.
Al-Kaf, Al-Kaf is good as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, lots of restaurants as well coming up.
Good brotherhood as well.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
Yeah, what do you think is great?
Same.
Yeah,
same.
I need to go to our salmon as well.
Without a doubt.
The way they do it, I love my fish. Salmon and brise, amazing combo. Wallah, amazing.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Okay, with regards to your favorite shifts, is your favorite shift night shift or day shift?
That depends what time of year. To be honest, for me, I like night shifts in Ramadan.
Yeah.
You get to work, you get to eat as well while working. It's a bit easier, and you get to sleep for a bit. Of course, you're not supposed to sleep the whole day away, but like night shift in Ramadan. But even outside of that, I enjoy the rest days afterwards, especially after I do night shift. I just came off a run of night shifts now. I've got Monday, Tuesday off. Nice to relax. Nice to have a working day off. If that makes sense. But 9 to 5 as well. That's fine. But yeah.
Bro, this is ignorance on my side, but I'll be honest, I didn't even know you lot do night shifts. I can't lie.
I know.
But to be fair, also we'll get into it obviously later on.
Of course.
We'll see. I mean, we'll get into what you do on a night shift.
Yeah.
But and we'll ask you a question later on. But I don't know. I don't see. Is there an importance for you guys to be in during the night? Because the thing is, night shifts, although they're good and you get that obviously benefit of weekdays, they're bad for your health.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
you don't want to be doing that.
Yeah,
long term specifically.
Long term, definitely. Yeah,
they're carcinogenic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not that good.
It's not the best thing, but yeah, we don't do them too often.
Okay.
Just probably once every 6 weeks.
Oh,
so it's not like I'm doing nights every
regularly
weekend or things like that.
The next question we had, and this is also in line with what Inam was explaining with regards to leaving an impact in this world, with regards to whatever job you do. We're Muslims at the end of the day, right?
100%.
And obviously that is incorporated. It's a way of life, so that's even incorporated in our day-to-day work. So we wanted to ask you, what motivates you? Because especially even working in the NHS, it's not that easy. So what motivates you from an Islamic perspective when things get difficult at work, when it gets hard, when it gets tough?
You just always have to be strong on your faith, your imam. You have to just think, you're helping people at the end of the day, and when you will be rewarded for it. Not now. You might not see the benefits of it straight away, but in the hereafter, you'll get you'll reap the rewards for all the people that you've helped, and you just have to make sure that you treat everyone equally, regardless of their faith, and even though they might feel a specific way towards you, you still have to help them, like I said, and you'll be benefited for it when the time comes, inshallah. So you have to make sure, treat everyone equally, treat people with respect, and just remember your faith, and stick to that, essentially.
Yeah, it's always going to be a case of it's always not going to be easy when you're in the service of the people. People have all sorts of different personalities. There's always going to be a clash. You're always going to have a bad day yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
There's always going to be someone who's having a bad day, who's coming to the clinic to speak to you, and then the one little thing you say or one thing that happens sets them off. But it's always good to remember why you did it in the first place.
100%.
And why you're doing it, specifically from an Islamic perspective. obviously intentions are extremely, like, they can magnify your end result and end product.
Yeah.
So it's always good to go back to that reason at the beginning.
It's interesting you put it that way, because even from an Islamic perspective, when you're calling others towards khair and towards the deen and towards righteousness, you are expecting to face some harm in the process.
Yeah.
The human beings, at the end of the day, people are not perfect, right? And obviously this applies in all spectrums, whichever way you're trying to help someone.
Yeah.
There's always going to be ups and downs. So upon us is to try our very best to remain patient, right?
100%,
Even if you look
yeah,
at Surah Al-Asr, these kind of concepts are explained over there. So just wanted to go a bit more into physiology as a field, how you got started in it. So first of all, what exactly is it? How did you get started? What was your journey and applying, etc.?
Yeah, so with, physiology and being a physiologist, not many people do it. I don't think I've gone a single week without explaining it to someone. I explain my job, and first thing they ask, are you a doctor? Which no, we work with doctors very regularly, but we're kind of our own separate thing. And I just happened to stumble on it, completely by accident. Uni fair, when you're looking around, I was looking, at all things on medicine, paramedic science, and there's this one guy there, at a booth for physiology. So I spoke to him, he explained everything to me. Like, this sounds very, very interesting. Course not too long, training is very, very good. And the main thing is, you do placement as well. You guys are medics. You guys did placement through your degrees. And same here. You do 50 weeks of placement throughout the 3 years, which, when you think about it, it's a whole year of placement essentially.
That's a lot,
Exactly a third of the degree is spent on the job, which is definitely very important. Something I actively sought out, because it's other degrees at technically better universities that don't have the placement. And at the end of the day, you can know what you know, but you need to put it to practice. You need to experience and things like that. So I got into that, and I just loved it from there. So I am a respiratory and sleep physiologist. Currently in a hybrid role where I rotate into both. But there's other physiologists out there as well. A few of my friends that I graduated with, they're cardiac physiologists. They do loads of things, in the cardiac side. They do pacing. They do pacing clinics. They in a cardiac catheter lab. Helping the nurses, helping the doctors and stuff like that. When doing an angiogram, doing angioplasties, insertion of pacemakers, and stuff like that. There's vascular, there's neurophysiology. It's many different things. Not as many things as medics, but still a good amount of us out there.
And I'll say almost, not every specialty, but a good chunk of the specialties that we can go into, you guys have sub, obviously, divisions within the specialties, also cardiac, physiology, respiratory, etc. We have viewers that are non-medics, Abdul-Latif, so we have to explain to them what a physiologist is.
What a physiologist is. Physiology means how the body works, and you look at how the body works in that specific specialty. So, for example, for me, respiratory and sleep, how people's breathing, issues that can happen when with people and their breathing issues, for example, asthma, COPD. So we help test for that. For example, do lung function testing, which includes spirometry, and a whole other host of things like that. We just look at how the body works and what's wrong with it. Essentially, we do the testing, we do the analysis. We work very closely with other healthcare professionals. And, we've got our consultants that they run their clinics. They use the results we give them, and of course they take a clinical history. They do their own examination, but we're a key part of their puzzle solving, essentially. Not trying to big us up too much. Without us they can't do their job. Of course they can, but it's still an important part that they need. But and sleep physiology as well. Why do people get bad sleep? How can they improve their sleep? Sleep apnea, the causes of it. Is it obstructive? Is there something in the airway that blocks their airway? Is it enlarged tonsils, central sleep apnea, no drive to breathe? So why is there some sort of brain injury that could have potentially caused that? So there's lots of different things. I'm speaking about what I do, but there's a million things that my cardiac physiologist friends can tell you, about vascular, about neurophysiology. So it's a very, very big world out there. But yeah.
There's a lot you can do with that. I mean, sleep and respiratory, those are like extremely vast fields, and
Of course,
particularly
definitely.
nowadays, almost everyone's having sleep problems, and
Yeah,
there's so
exactly.
much you can do, especially when it comes to the realm of social media in order to expand your services. SubhanAllah. So how does one specialize in that? Is that done prior or after you start working, or
So it's, again, that's how we differ to you medics. We specialize during uni. So you pick your degree from the get-go. So you go into respiratory and sleep physiology. You go into cardiac physiology from the jump. So, first year, you still do your general lectures. We shared some lectures with the medics at my uni. We didn't go in the same depth because, you guys cover everything. We cover all we need to know, like the basics and, our specialty. So with my uni, first year you do cardiac and respiratory and sleep, and afterwards you pick either cardiac and then respiratory and sleep. But like I said, there's different unis offer different courses, and there's master's versions as well. So my degree was the practitioner training program, or PTP program, and there's a master's equivalent as well, where you can, again, for example, if you didn't necessarily do respiratory or sleep physiology at uni, imagine you did biomed or you did something similar, you could get into the master's program and become a physiologist after that. And very, very good, master's degree. It's fully funded, band 6 pay. Is very good. Very, definitely recommend people to look into it if they want to become, a physiologist. It's very, very good.
Why did you choose respiratory?
Yeah. I always say this to my friends. I can't read an ECG to save my life.
Okay.
I look at it, I'm like, what is this? Genuinely. Of course, I could have gotten it with time, but I was looking at it as well. The things that you can get into with cardiac physiology didn't really sing to me. Wasn't too interested. The one part of cardiac that I did enjoy was like the cardiac catheter suite or cath lab and stuff like that. It's where it's quite intense, quite high stakes. But then again, you see your fair share of tragedies in there. It can be quite sad, so we just I shied away from it. New respiratory and sleep, quite, you can learn a lot, and it's very, I would say it's very good, very solid job. Alhamdulillah.
You touched upon tragedies now, and that's obviously the reality of the field we work in.
100%,
I think previously we touched upon how we can leave our impact on various individuals within the field we work in, right? Try to help people, etc. But there's also another concept which we also try to reflect upon during our podcast, is that this field and the things we see, I know you talk a lot about the things that you see on your social media and all of these crazy things which happen. The reality is that the things we see should have a beneficial impact on us with regards to waking us up, serving as a reminder, raising our iman, etc. So do you have anything that particularly really resonated with you, struck with you, just made you think about strengthen your iman, strengthen your yaqeen, your certainty as well?
It's just, sometimes when you look at a patient and, you see how poorly they're doing, and, we take for granted, what we do every day. Like what we do every day. We walked into this room, for example. Some people can't do that. So it's like kind of a reminder for yourself. Things could be a lot more worse, than in the position you're in. You should be grateful. You should be, thanking Allah for the things that we have. You look at a patient, for example, you review a patient, they have X, they have Y, they have Z. This is their prognosis. But, at the end of the shift, alhamdulillah, you get to go home and spend time with your family. So you just have, for me, it's a very, very good reminder. Of course, Ilahi put me in this position. I'm lucky enough to be here, to be doing all these amazing things. And, we should be lucky for, the basic things, for example, walking, our eyesight is a big thing. We use it every day. We walk, look around or whatever. But, I've had blind patients, they're dependent on their walking stick for their cane. So those kind of things make me very, very grateful. And, I, of course, pray and, make dua for these people that, Ilahi makes life easy for them. But, I use it as a reminder for myself to say, I'm in a very good place, alhamdulillah, I should be grateful. Yeah, I
think gratitude is very important. I remember once I was doing acute medical take shift, and someone presented with acute blindness, essentially. And obviously we had to get ophthalmology involved, etc. But And even in the Quran, هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون, right? So is that Allah is reminding us the fact that our eyesight has been given to us, and He's the one who gave it to us. قليلا ما تشكرون is that we don't give enough thanks for this, right? Reality is that obviously anyone wouldn't accept like £1 million take away my eyesight now. But these are reminders, active reminders that we should think now. Even subhanAllah, obviously we've been in the hospital so much, but having this discussion just sparks our our basically reminds us to be grateful all the time, and we have to look at those who have less with us as well. That's also very important.
100%,
It strengthens our iman, etc. So obviously being a Muslim is a very important part of our identity, your identity, as you mentioned, and you've explained reasons for this. Also wanted to touch upon another aspect, obviously your cultural identity and your Somali, of course, and your name as well, very common name in from where you're from. Can you talk to us about, you've had some things, you mentioned it on social media briefly with regards to your experiences in warming people up to their name and how to pronounce it, etc. So just tell us a bit about that, inshallah.
Yeah, it's something I'm personally quite vocal about, the whole Abdi thing. Of course, it's not a personal attack on anyone. If they decide to go by Abdi, it's their own thing. They've made that decision for themselves. But it's just a thing of people expecting and, thinking that they can call you what they want, essentially, which of course is not the case. People are different. For example, you, Dr. Zakaria, if you introduce yourself to people as Zach, that's an invitation for them to call you that, for example. But, people with me, sometimes, I introduce myself, my name's Abdulatif. If they don't get it first time, second time, that's fine. I'll keep repeating my name. I used to think that people couldn't pronounce my name. I used to go by Abdi for, quite a long time. And then, just one day, switch flipped. People can call me Abdulatif at the end of the day. It's not the hardest thing in the world, honestly. It's not like it has 20 syllables or anything like that. And, when I started placement, actually, I introduced myself as Abdulatif, and everyone was calling me that from then on. And I realized people can call you by your name, and at the end of the day, your name is very important to you, and we all know, the weight of our names. For example, people, Abdulatif, Abdurrahman, servant of, Ilahi, or which, whatever one of his 99 names. That happens to be, or you're named after a prophet. It's very, very important. Our names, they hold a lot of weight. They are part of our identity. And again, like I said, not a personal attack. If you want to go by Abdi, that's fine. It's your own personal choice. But call people what they want to be called. If you sign off an email with your name, don't say, "Oh, hi Abdi, thank you for that." No, I signed off my name with this. I'll call you Dr. So-and-so. If you introduce yourself by your first name, I'll call you by your first name. So it's a thing of, you need to get off the program. You need to realize what you're doing, because for some people, they might not realize they're doing it. But, of course, my name, Abdulatif, servant of the gentle one. I find that a very beautiful name. I personally haven't met too many people with the same name as me. I think I've met like 3 or 4 people only. But it's a thing of, my name means a lot to me. Please call me by my name, essentially. And especially in healthcare as well. You're emailing people all the time and things like that. It's not hard to look at whatever someone signed their name off as and just copy and paste and just call them that. It's not going to kill you at the end of the day.
Yeah. What's the story behind it? I'm not aware.
Oh no, it's just many times where people have just called me Abdi and stuff like that. Healthcare professionals, and I've signed my name off with Abdulatif. Respiratory and sleep physiologist, and sometimes it's after me doing a favor for them as well. Can you quickly see this patient? I just saw them in clinic. They need a lung function test. Thank you, Abdi. And sometimes they realize what they're doing is wrong, but sometimes they don't. I've had to correct people. I've had to correct consultants. And with some people they might be not afraid, but a bit more hesitant. It's because it's easier if you're correcting someone on the same level as you. But if it's a consultant with 15 years of experience, you might be a bit hesitant. But they're understanding. They know they can pronounce it, and most of the time they mention they realize the error of their ways. But with them, kind of expect that they will most likely say sorry, but it's like with patients as well. You know, I've had horror patients, you know, because I introduce myself, you know, my name is Abdulladif, and, you know, they, most of the time they say it back, and, you know, they don't get a first time, they get a second time, and that's fine. But it's the ones where they think they can make nicknames for you. You know, I had one patient, you know, they say, oh, that's so long, that's so, can I call you something else? Can I call you Tiff? I'm like, Tiff. I'm like, my name's not Tiffany. Why are you calling me that? And it's very, you know, again, links back to your faith. You have to be strong. You can brush over it or you can address it. It's up to you, but you have to, you know, remain strong in your faith, essentially, with that.
It's about respect as well, mutual respect.
100%.
But the thing is, bro, I have a different opinion on this.
Okay,
Yeah, and I'm gonna share it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I 100% agree with you, without a doubt. Religion comes first for me and for all of us at the end of the day.
Of course.
And Abdi is obviously servant, Abd, and then obviously there's, as you mentioned, the name Latif, Ar-Rahman, etc., etc. But I think this problem has been created by none other than the Somali community. That is my honest opinion, and I've seen it multiple times. Just not to mention, as I'm not saying that so these guys can, but it doesn't mean they can do what they can say what, like, call you Abdi from now on.
Yeah.
But I think the Somali community are to blame for this, because they don't, most of these non-Somalis, obviously it's not a Somali name, it's an Arab name, it's an Islamic name, sorry. It's not Arab name, it's an Islamic name. However, the Somali community are what propelled this specifically within London, I can say.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of Somalis would just go by Abdi.
Yeah, of course.
And they'll walk around, like, in school, in thingy, and they'll just call themselves Abdi. They won't say Abdurrahman or Abdullahi or Abdullah or etc., etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but we are to blame as well.
Of course, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Of course, you know,
Yeah.
even myself, I propagated that stuff. I used to go by Abdi.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's something we need to change as a
100%.
as a culture.
Yeah.
You know, you know, our name is our name. And, you know, we need to shift away from that. That's what I think personally. But again, you know, it's a personal choice at the end of the day. If you want to go by Abdi, it's completely up to you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of obviously not shying away from your identity and just being confident about that, really. That's a very important, whether it's your name, obviously religiously as well. Has there been any instances in work where you've had to stay strong upon your faith and you've been invited to different things? I mean, me personally, I give one example. Recently I was on a home visit, and as I walked in, so obviously it was going to be a long consultation, right? So I was actually offered like an alcoholic drink while I was in someone else's house, right? And obviously I look externally like a Muslim and things like that. So it's just like you're in someone else's environment, and obviously they offer you this. Like, it's obviously maybe you consider them to not know about these things and the requirements of your faith, etc., what you can and can't do. But you just have to stay strong and move forth, really. There's quite a few different examples, but have you both come across anything like this?
Trying to think. Can't think of anything on the top of my head.
The easiest one I can think of,
Yeah.
I'll give you some time to think about it. The easiest one I can think of is Salah, man.
Yeah.
Like, as in that, I'll be honest, specifically even in the NHS, like it's this is one you're gonna come across all the time. NHS is busy. When it gets to winter time, Salahs come rapid, bro, and they come very quick. So and specifically Jum'ah time, like Fridays, like, because I think obviously there's no consideration of like Friday prayers and stuff when they make a rota, right?
Yeah,
They just make a rota, and sometimes you're on things where like it's gonna definitely extend into Jum'ah. So it's just about making them aware, educating them, saying like, listen, like for example, I was in surgery, and the surgery started a little bit late, like 12, and I knew it's going to be a long surgery, like it's going to definitely extend into Jum'ah time. Jum'ah was at 1:10. So I told the consultant and the reg at the beginning, I said, look, I've got to go Friday prayer, and they needed me in there, so they usually have 3 people for that particular operation. And I said, look, you're going to have to find someone. When it gets to 1 something, I have to leave. So let's find, because there's always someone that can do my job, whether it's holding the laparoscope or holding something. So I said, find someone beforehand now. Let's look for someone, one of the junior doctors, to come and replace me just for that short period. I only need 20-30 minutes to go and pray. And they did that. So it's just accommodating. So you just have to obviously be more vocal about it. That's the most important thing. If you shy away from it, then it will just keep happening, and you obviously compromise your own religion, so it's not good. So,
it's a thing that, of course, I try my absolute best to do, of course, the Friday prayers and things like that. And sometimes it's like completely inevitable. Like you physically cannot go. You're with a patient. Your patient's unwell.
Yeah.
You're going to, unfortunately miss it. And, of course, it's not the best thing,
Yeah.
but sometimes it is genuinely inevitable. And the thing to answer your question as well, it's just like with the whole, fasting and things like that, like I mentioned earlier, in my own experience with shift work and stuff like that, sometimes they can't be too accommodating. So, of course, if we do late shifts as well, we do like 12:30 to 8:30, and, you're going to break your fast in the middle of your shift, and you have to, work around that, have to shift your break.
Yeah.
And, again, you have to make sure you don't compromise on those kind of areas, which is something, is definitely very, very important, I find.
Yeah, but yeah, as you mentioned, also sometimes like there's not much you can do specifically in emergency situations. I remember Ramadan, I was on call in the hospital, and it was the respiratory ward actually. And one of the patients, it was like Maghrib, it was close to Maghrib, and I was about to break my fast. I got my dates and water, and I'm walking towards like the multi-faith room, and then my bleep went off. So I went straight to the ward, and this was like 2 minutes before Maghrib. I ended up breaking my fast like 40 minutes later, because obviously that patient's very unwell. I was the only one there. Then I had to get help. Then I have to, obviously, so sometimes it's out of your hands, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but whenever you can, like, you just obviously have to ensure that you try and not compromise your religion.
Of course.
So I also wanted to touch upon, you mentioned in one piece of content with regards to how it feels when you see Somalis, or Somalis see you with your lanyard, with your scrubs, etc. They give you a lot of respect and all of that. So I think obviously it's a big position of responsibility, right? The fact that you're in this position, but that also made me reflect and realize that obviously that's a lot of respect you're getting, right, from your community. And the reality is that you're someone who's looked up to, right? Especially if you do a job like this.
Definitely.
Sometimes even as a job, we can take it for granted. We can complain that it's so difficult, whatever it's to do with, whether it's the pay, whether it's the difficult conditions. Granted, that's there.
Yeah.
But the reality is, bottom line, it's a wonderful profession and it's a massive position of responsibility. So just wanted you to touch upon a bit more about how it feels to be in that position, and just tell us more about your experiences, like what you mentioned with the seeing fellow Somalis.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely something that makes me very, very happy. It's like, you'll be doing your job, you'll be doing whatever, you'll be, doing your lung function testing, and you just see a Somali family there, and their eyes light up. Or like, I can't, doctor, that you must get that as well. Whenever you get, Somali patients or Somali relatives and things like that, and they're like, mashallah, I'm going to make dua for you, and they get happy. It's because one of their people is doing very well. They've climbed their ranks, they've got a certain position, and they get happy. And the amount of people they've make dua for me, it's I can't count. And it's always a good thing to make people dua for you. People wish you well, and it comes from a place of they just they love it, and it makes me feel good. It makes me happy for the rest of the shift. If it's a 11-hour shift and you see a Somali person, you ride kind of a high on those compliments essentially, and proudly Somali, and I want to represent our people very well at those kind of levels, and in areas where we might not be represented, especially in physiology. Of course, there are Somali doctors out there, but in physiologists, not many of us. The field in itself is small.
Yeah,
the amount of Somali physiologists in there is even smaller. So they get very happy. I get happy. We speak in Somali, and they wish me well. Definitely makes me very happy.
What about have you seen other Somali healthcare professionals in like where you work?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And is it the same like interaction, or?
Some people I graduated with, we actually work in the same hospital now. We were friends in uni, so we see each other, quite regularly in the hospital and stuff like that. Now for us, in ourselves, the novelty is the one. We've seen each other. But even if I see, once I met like a Somali doctor as well. When I was on placement, I was speaking to him. We pray together as well, and it's kind of a thing of we're proud of each other. You're doing this, I'm doing that. We're representing our people very well.
Yeah. That's good, man.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are some of the challenges of coming out of that kind of, let's say, the upbringing, right? Is there any particular challenges which the community generally faces in order to reach positions like this, things which make it harder for them, maybe some disadvantages, etc.?
There's a thing of, we're, might be first, second generation immigrants. Our parents come from, wherever our parents come from. My mum came from Somalia. And, she moved around a little bit, for us, her children. And, if you're not in a place for too long, it's harder, to, get into different places because, all other people, they've been here for hundreds of years. They've got their roots down. They're more set up, more established, and they use that to get into good universities, to get into different programs, extra tutoring and stuff like that. And us, especially Somalis, where feel like we're catching up. Of course, tuition and things like that. We're trying to compete, with these people, and it's. We work hard. Over time, it will get easier for us. Inshallah, there'll be more, not specifically Somali people, but more people from ethnic minorities in these kind of high positions. It will come with time. Of course, and once we get up there, once we have kids, we'll help our kids, and it's a generational thing. Inshallah, we will get there. In terms of the higher positions, we'll help our kids. They'll help their kids. And as a whole, as a people, we'll come up together, inshallah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the environment does play a huge role with regards to this stuff in terms of one's successes. I mean, I wouldn't put it only on that, but I'm saying it's a key factor in one's trajectory or their journey, which is why, as Inam alluded to earlier, I wanted to touch upon postcode lottery. So it's the definition of it is the unequal provision of services such as healthcare. I mean, access to healthcare, insurance prices, etc., cost of living and stuff between different localities. So, for example, compare Newham is one of the poorest boroughs in London, for example. If you compare that to an access to healthcare and things like this, compared to places I don't know, Chelsea and Westminster, and so obviously because the environment plays a huge role. So we obviously touched upon some of the obstacles you mentioned as well now, but you know how they say birds of a feather flock together? When you're in a locality where not everyone's maybe going down the same pathway as you, how does that impact you? And how do other youths in that sort of position now, how do they sort of try and overcome that? Because it's going to be a reality. You're not going to be or living on the same street as multimillionaires. You're not going to be living in the same street as doctors, etc., etc. So how does one overcome that and try and get into these positions from the get-go? What advice would you give them?
So that's one of the reasons why I started my TikTok, is just to show people what can be done. Of course, you need to work hard at the end of the day, but if you're not surrounded by doctors, you're not surrounded by millionaires, it's you don't really have people to look up to. So it's a thing of I encourage my followers, or my friends as well. I can tell them, maybe look into this or look into that. And it's the thing of I want to be that person that helps them get out there, just suggest things that they could do. For example, I get DMs from people be like, oh, this is my situation, I've got this and so degree, how could I get into this, how can I get into physiology? And I take my time to write out paragraphs to try to help them. And it's very important that you encourage these people. As you said, they might not live next to doctors, they might not live next to millionaires, and they might not personally know anyone. So if you know people in these specific positions, they can help you. They say, all right, so you're in this position, all right, try get these A levels, try apply to these kind of unis, get experience with me, for example, personally, or this for people that and it makes it easier if you know people in the place where you want to be. Of course, and I'm sure with you guys as well, people in your community, you guys, of course, trying to help people get into med and things like that. So it's, you kind of become the beacon of light that people aim for. If people, sometimes they don't even know where they want to go. And if you say, all right, you could become this, or you could go into that, not just specifically healthcare, just anything, you know. So it's good to help people get into these kind of things and show them how to, you know, give them a blueprint, give them a map. This is how you become this is how you become that. And it links back to, you know, the whole, we lift each other up. You need to help people, you don't need to gatekeep. So that, I find that's something very, very important.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you just being out there on your platform, TikTok, and just showing them that's possible.
100%.
That in itself is, even if you want to interact or give specific advice, the fact they see you in the position you're in is motivation and inspiration in itself for them. So
that's good. I mean, obviously it's a big burden, someone who's looked up to, etc. But I think giving that helping hand, it's very, very beneficial. You know, so may Allah reward you for that. We wanted to touch upon some particular sciences which you're involved in, right? So with regards to vaping, right?
Yeah.
So what are the main harms of vaping on people's lungs? I think just generally, what are the main harms of vaping? I think even if you look at the different ways you can have an impact on the community, right?
Yeah.
We all understand that smoking is haram, right? You're not allowed to harm your body like this. And the reality is that a lot of Muslims, they still do smoke. Yeah, a lot of people in society generally, they smoke. People will be impacted by passive smoking as well. So an individual who's able to tackle these kind of things on a community level, he's able to have a massive impact, right? People can live longer. Yeah, bi'idhnillah, they'll have more time in this life to do ibadah. So the reality is that you can have a massive impact. So I just wanted to discuss with regards to your mission on educating people about vaping, smoking, trying to have that beneficial impact, which I just mentioned.
Yeah, so with all these different things, as you mentioned, smoking, vaping, and, you know, there's lots of different balloons, you know, nitrous oxide that, you know, that people are doing. And there's lots of things that go into people getting into it and keep doing it. You know, social pressures, people might think it's normal, you know, I'm sure you guys, you know, have patients that are quite a bit older, you know, in their 70s, 80s, you know, you ask, you know, pack here, how many cigarettes have you smoked and for how long? And they'll tell you, I've smoked 20 a day for 50 years. Yeah. And you're like, you know, back then it was normal.
Yeah.
So, and I fear that's what, you know, vaping is moving towards, if that makes sense. You know, everyone does it. You know, as you mentioned, it's generally not good for you. Objectively, it is better than smoking, but, you know, when you start telling people that, but at least I'm not smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And, you know, vaping should only be used as a tool to get off smoking.
Yeah.
You know, of course. And I've said this before, it's not where you are, it's where you want to be. If you smoke, I want you to vape. If you don't do anything, don't pick up a vape, essentially. And again, you know, with vaping, it's very attractive. I mean, you know, in terms of flavors and things like that. So of course, it's not very good for you. And, you know, balloons as well. That's a whole host of other problems. You know, I hope that never gets normalized, and it's definitely not good. And, you know, it's something I preach about, you know, by telling stories and things like that about certain things. You know, this person did this, and, you know, it's not even what I propagate. Is, you know, you can see it. You know, you see people doing balloons. You know, people driving. Or like I saw one person driving while doing balloons. Like, you know, I think we were on an A road. And you're like, you know, how are you doing this to yourself? But again, you know, they might not be well educated on that, and that's something that I try to do through stories and through, you know, through the physiology of things and how it affects you and how it can lead to other things, you know, not just from the balloons themselves, or just what it can lead to and what, you know, consequences of doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When they say it's better than smoking, what do they mean by this?
So it's with, you know, smoking, known, you know, carcinogen, you know, all sorts of in there, you know, of course, you know, the tar and, you know, all the things it does, irritation, cancer and things like that. So it's, like I said, objectively a lot worse than vaping, but, you know, don't do anything. Essentially, if you're just a regular schmegular guy.
Yeah, that's the problem, I guess. That is the issue. That's a big issue, because people just see it as trendy, so they just go onto that. They may not have smoked in the past, but this alternative which was created to help those who do smoke try and cut down and eventually just stop, has become a new sort of wave. Yeah,
new sort of fad.
Yeah,
It was originally,
exactly.
and it's just, I would say this vaping, especially like younger people, is within the last 6, 7 years. And if you think about vaping 10 years ago, had the proper ones, the big ones, with the liquids and stuff, and nowadays it's just more accessible. Buy a 5-6 round vape, and be on your way after you're done with it, dash that way. So it's more accessible, and it's like I said, it's not genuine, it's just not good for you.
What are the main harms of it? What are the harms which vaping causes?
So it's, one part of it is nicotine addiction, and that's a whole thing in itself. And once you decide to quit, nicotine withdrawals, and it's a thing of, it's not easy. Of course, at the end of the day, it is an addiction. You can't just go up to like, what are you doing? Stop doing X, Y, Z, whatever. But they've got the dopamine rush from whatever they're doing, and just think there's a genetic component to addiction as well. So it's not as easy as people say it is. But you need to help people, and with you guys as well, as medics, in clinic and things like that, just show people, maybe try this, offer advice, offer alternatives to vaping.
Yeah, they've got a new one now, and there's a new alternative as well. Recently I just saw one called it's called Ripple. It's like a plant based, it's not like THC and stuff, but it's like a plant based alternative substitute to vaping. Yeah, and it's got like it's nicotine free. That's their main
selling point.
Yeah. USP. So I don't know much about it. By the way, I'm not condoning it. I'm not telling people, I'm not promoting it. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It feels like there's going to be an alternative to that one. They may find, and even vaping itself. What you mentioned is just some of the harms. We don't know some of the islands. There's a lack of research in this area. You see, and that's that. I'll be honest. In itself, that's scary in itself.
100%.
Yeah, the fact that you don't know long-term effects, you don't know any other, like, if there's any other, like, other chemicals within this that they haven't yet found out to be harmful to the human body.
Yeah, with smoking, very, very well researched.
Yeah.
And it's kind of common knowledge.
Yeah.
Smoking is bad for you, and I think one of the main why people don't think vaping is as harmful. Again, the smoking comparison. It's just the flavors. You've got this, you've got that, you've got apple, you've got cherry, and people smell it. Of course, if you're standing next to a smoker, you hold your nose, you try walk away, you hold your breath. But if you're standing next to a vapor, it's not. Of course, it's not pleasant, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You could be smelling a lot worse, which is, I think, definitely part of it as well.
Yeah. I think also the vaping, the culture within, like, people, with smokers, I think they're kind of also more aware that, the harms and risks of also passive smoking. So they try and, like, I don't know, like, I feel like when you're walking past them, or they try and, like, they try to basically mindful. Kind of, and avoid causing you unnecessary harm. But with people that vape, I'll be honest, I've seen it regularly. They don't care where they are. They're chimneys, blowing it out. Chimney, so so I think that's also a bit, obviously, it's also a bit scary,
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's because even when it comes to the tricks of shaitan, right, the plots of shaitan, it tries to beautify for you different things, which is maybe still related to the previous thing, right? So even when it comes to alcohol, right, intoxication, there's various different names for it, which is known as society, right, which takes away that same weight of the word, right? Even when it comes to murder, there's a lot of different slang words which kind of lighten it, right? So there's still, again, that's one of the plots of shaitan as well. It's important for us to be wary of that and to warn against basically intoxicants, things which are similar to that, or things which are alternatives to that as well. So commend what you're doing on that as well.
Appreciate it.
On that aid you on your mission. Also wanted to touch upon sleep as well. One particular aspect of sleep, just wanted to touch upon. I was doing some research for the pod yesterday. I realized that snoring has actually caused like a lot of problems in marriage for people in regards to divorces occurring because of that, people sleeping in different beds and stuff like that. So talk to us about snoring. If an individual was to have snoring, let's say they're listening to this podcast, etc., what's the best way to kind of optimize for that?
Of course, I want to say first, it's not medical advice, it's medical guidance, but snoring in itself, it's not bad. It's it's indicative of other issues, potential issues. It's very annoying, as you touched on. I've spoken to patients, they don't sleep in the same bed, they sleep in different rooms. And you're thinking, snoring, it's not that deep. But people snore like it's crazy, and people get divorced over it. And you think it's such a small thing, but, sleep is very important. And having, call it fragmented sleep is, very detrimental to your health, cardiovascular risk, increase of all sorts of things. But, it makes you, as a person, makes you just a bit more, aggy, kind of angry kind of thing. And it's very underestimated. And that's why these, sleeping conditions, sleep apnea and things like that, makes you seem like not a bad person, makes you just seem like a negative person, because you didn't get proper sleep. There's something called like arousals in sleep. That means that, you not necessarily wake up, but you move into a lighter stage of sleep, and that again fragments your sleep, makes your sleep quality worse. And you might wake up thinking you slept through the night, but you had all these different sleep arousals, and you become a bit more on edge, you become a bit more snappy. That's something that's overlooked. But of course, the main things, cardiovascular risk, increased blood pressure, can lead to a host of problems that we can speak about all day. Snoring, it can be indicative of some sort of obstruction in the airway, obstructive sleep apnea. You might some reverse some cause that can be helped. If you have enlarged tonsils, ENT surgery, get them out. But some people just anatomically have a small airway, they're more susceptible to snoring. Their tongue might fall back and occlude the airway, leading to snoring. So like I said, it's indicative of things, but it's a whole social thing as well. Your bed partner might not necessarily appreciate that, and you could get it checked out, because like I said, it might mean something else.
Some of the other stuff is, like I've heard, is like obviously enlarged adenoids, again, reduced airway, but also obesity. Obesity is can be a cause of snoring if you're high BMI, and
100%.
then you're
so it's like different measures as well. There's one called Stop Bang. Don't remember exactly what it means, but it's like list of risk factors. Being a male, you're more susceptible to sleep apnea. Being above 50, having a collar size of more than 17.5 inches, these things make you more at risk of having sleep apnea. Obesity, you just have more fat around your airways, they're more collapsible. Again, you stop breathing, you get a dip in your oxygen saturations, wakes you up, you become groggy in the morning, cardiovascular risks are increased. So these things, people know, sleep is important, sleep is this, but sleep is important. And lots of things happen when you sleep as well. You just rest. If you go gym, your muscle growth happens when you sleep. And if you're banging the gym but not getting enough sleep, your gains are not maximized.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a big thing that's overlooked, to be honest. And as you mentioned, like, it's extremely important for one's day-to-day functioning. And sometimes, like I've had that in the past. You feel like you slept through the whole night, but then there's been obviously cases as you move to a lighter stage of sleep, so you haven't necessarily woken up, but you've obviously your body's doesn't feel refreshed, replenished. So a lot of people, they complain of waking up and they're still tired, so no matter how many hours they sleep. And this can be an indication, or this can be a sort of a cause for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing I wanted to ask, obviously we're given a lot of different ideas for our audience for Blueprint, right? What is the potential in private work for being a physiologist? Specifically
for respiratory and sleep, it's not a massive market. You can still get jobs at Cromwell Hospital and these other private things, Bupa, for example. You can do it, of course. Anytime you go into private, pay is small. But for example, in cardiac, it's a lot more lucrative. You can do echocardiograms. I've spoken to people that have moved into the private sector, and they work for all these healthcare companies, and they locum on the weekends. They get £800 per echo, which is like an echo takes however long, and they're getting a big paycheck at the end of the day. And of course, people go into private, and I'm not slamming those people, but for me personally, I want to help people that look like me. essentially stay in the NHS, help people, climb the ranks. If I do move into, into private in the future, don't pull up this clip right now saying, yeah, look, you said you're going to stay in the NHS. What happened? But, of course, factors, if you want more pay, of course, private, that's where the money's at.
An argument could be made on the other side, though, in terms of helping people. In that, an argument could be that you move into the private sector, you acquire more capital, then you just start your own little service, and then you can directly impact the people on the ground, or maybe open things up, and get people that look like you more access to healthcare.
Yeah, of course.
Services.
There's
argument on both sides, but I agree with. I know what you're saying, and I understand. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Does that make you not feel some type of way, but knowing the knowledge you have now of cardiac physiologists, that obviously there are options in terms of locuming and things like this, would you have changed your course, or?
That's actually something I was speaking to my friends about. I'm in the wrong pathway, but of course, that's a joke.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you're not enjoying it, what are you doing? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, it is very lucrative. But I'm happy where I am. Alhamdulillah. I am where I want to be, comfortable. But money, of course, it's an important thing, but it shouldn't be your main motivator. Because if you're miserable doing whatever, even if you're getting a crazy paycheck, it's not worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, if you have to try and decode an ECG, don't matter.
Oh yeah, that's like I said, can't do it for the life of me.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. So I think there's a lot of scopes for you to take your mission to the next level with regards to education, teaching people these healthy habits, and so we're excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, of course,
inshallah, step by step. Is there any one final advice you'd like to give to our viewers? Just a bit of closing advice based on your journey and everything you've experienced thus far.
Keep your options open. Make sure you research, different things, different fields. Again, not just in healthcare, in anything. Just look at the different pathways you can potentially take. Don't just dive into the first thing you see. Make sure you do research. Take your time. Make sure what you do you're happy with. Make sure you can. It shouldn't. Okay, I'm not going to say it should take you over the moon, but something you don't mind doing. Something you wouldn't mind waking up for every day. You wake up, alhamdulillah, I'm alive, I'm breathing. Now I'm going to my job. And, you don't want to hate that. So just make sure you remember your faith. Just generally just be happy. And if you can't sleep properly, seek help. Essentially, try get help for that.
Yeah, they'll come and find you.
Yeah. Go to your GP again. No medical advice, medical guidance. But yeah.
What's your plans for the future, inshallah? The Flying Physiologist.
Flying Physiologist. Just keep going on TikTok. Essentially, expand. Move on to bigger and better things, inshallah.
Yeah. Keep doing medical content.
Keep doing medical content and stuff like that. And the thing is, if you want help, you'd message me. They come to me, be like, oh, I can't sleep. Just more career advice, essentially. If you worried about anything, you need to go to your GP. You guys. But if you've got an idea, you're not sure on what to do, where you need some sort of advice. I'm here. I respond to people. I'll try my best. Outside of work. But yeah.
Yeah, and they can find you on?
So I'm mainly on TikTok, The Flying Physiologist, on Instagram as well, same name, The Flying Physiologist. But yeah, that's where you can find me, inshallah.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, where did that name come from? I wanted to ask that.
Yeah, so the thing is, I was born in the Netherlands, so I am Dutch, essentially, and the whole Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, Robin van Persie.
Van Persie.
Yeah.
I'm like the Flying Physiologist. It kind of has a ring to it. So I just decided, Flying Physiologist makes sense, a bit of a fun name. Decided to stick with. Just came up in my head one day. I'm like,
it's catchy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's a pleasure to meet you, bro.
Thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate you guys. Like the pod, and thank you for having me on.
Inshallah, we catch up soon.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Until next time.
Next time.